at rootsmaui.org or 808-250-7988 for details.
This is KAKU 88.5 FM.
I love you.
The voice of Maui.
You are listening to the Student of Wealth Radio Hour on KAKU 88.5 FM.
Aloha, Maui. It's time for Student Wealth Radio Hour. Welcome back. Everybody get your notepads, get your pen, go to the bathroom, do what you need to do. Because when we come back, we are having a wonderful conversation with Miss LaTasha Baldwin, author of Reflective Life Design.
Today I align with the path I was sent. No more chasing dollars, I'm writing the intent. Profit can wait, but my soul's at stake. I choose obedience, no more heartache. In clarity I walk, confusion's in the rear. With every step I take, I feel him near. Wisdom's in my worship, that's where I thrive. In the depths of my spirit, I truly come alive. I'm guided by his love, I'm covered in his grace. Everything that I am is in this holy space. I'm equipped for the journey, I'm ready to go. Kingdom wealth is alignment, let the blessings flow. I'm guided by his love, I'm covered in his grace. Everything that I am is in this holy space. I'm equipped for the journey, I'm ready to go. Kingdom wealth is alignment, let the blessings flow. What the world sees as profit, I see as the grind. Building up my treasures where the heart's aligned. I'm trusting in the Lord with all of my heart. Lean not to my understanding, that's where I start. Proverbs in my mind, guiding my way. Acknowledging him daily, come what may. Everything that's built through me will surely prosper, because he's the foundation, the ultimate sponsor. I'm guided by his love, I'm covered in his grace. Everything that I am is in this holy space. I'm equipped for the journey, I'm ready to go. Kingdom wealth is alignment, let the blessings flow. I'm guided by his love, I'm covered in his grace. Everything that I am is in this
Aloha, Maui. Aloha, aloha, aloha. First, giving honor to God. Y'all, Student Wealth Hour, we are back. My name is Aviella Aloha. I'm your host, and I am here with Miss LaTasha Baldwin. Today's broadcast, the Student Wealth Radio Hour, is underwritten by Student of Wealth Hawaii, where we believe learning should do more than inform. It should prepare you to navigate life, leadership, and legacy with clarity and confidence. Okay. Through financial education, strategic planning, and purpose-driven entrepreneurship, we help individuals and business owners grow in all 7 dimensions of wealth while preparing for the life transitions that shape their financial future. To reserve your seat in our next free financial education webinar and explore the life stages that influence your path to long-term sustainability, visit studentofwealthhawaii.com. That's studentofwealthhawaii.com. Okay. Welcome back to Student of Wealth Radio Hour. Again, I am your host, Aviella Aloha, and I am so excited today to have Miss LaTasha Baldwin, author of Reflective Life Design, my new absolute favorite book in the whole wide world that I have ever read. Legit, my favorite book. LaTasha is in the studio today, and we are going to talk with her about reflective life design. But before we do, as you know, we want to invite God into our space here, invite him into your space there. So please close your eyes wherever you are, unless you are driving or operating heavy machinery or something that requires you to keep those eyes open. But let's go into prayer now. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this opportunity to be here in the midst of whomever can hear the sound of my voice, Lord God, for the Student of Wealth Radio Hour. God, I just invite you into this space, Lord, to help uncover kingdom wealth building in the way that you designed it, Lord, because today is all about design. It's all about design, God. So as we proceed, Lord, we just ask that you lay all of the crooked paths straight, Lord, that you assemble everyone that you would like to hear this message that will benefit from it, Lord, and that you bless our guest today, Miss LaTasha Baldwin, for taking time out of her super busy schedule to come back to the Student of Wealth Radio Hour for a encore talk. Lord, I'm just grateful. Thank you very much. You see me through so much, God, and so I reduce myself, Lord, and make an official request for you to increase you in me as we move forward in this space. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen.
Hey! Welcome back.
Thank you.
First
Thanks
of
for
all,
having me.
You are so cute with the
Aw.
glasses. I love it.
Thank you. I call them my friends.
Your friends.
Yes, they help me to see.
Yes. Yes. You had some last time that had a different pattern on it. They
Yeah,
were
I
really
did.
cute
Oh,
too.
thank you.
Don't let me have to go get me some glasses. I'm gonna be a little LaTasha Baldwin understudy, right? So on today, we are here to celebrate everything that you are doing right now with Reflective Life Design, your wonderful work here. This is a collective work that has so much vulnerability, so many great stories, action steps. Action steps in the way that it offers and invites you to think about where you are right now and where you'd like to be, and gives tips on some options people can consider on how to get to the next level
Yes,
by design.
that's right.
I love it. So, y'all, let me just tell you, I took this book with me on my vacation. I just got back yesterday from a wonderful vacation, and I could not put this book down.
That warms my heart.
Yes, I loved it so much. Okay, and I had some coffee, y'all, so I'm all high energy. How are you doing, LaTasha?
I'm doing very well. I just loving life and enjoying life. That doesn't mean that everything is, roses, but it means that I feel very aligned with God and what He's doing in me, and just taking what life brings and just walking the path. So,
That's right. Taking what life brings and walking the path.
yes.
What I love about you is I happen to know that the things that you say are actually real for you.
They are.
You are the essence of everything that you're saying in real life. Sometimes when you have people through these mediums, where people are looking through a glass or hearing you, over the airwaves, you don't know who you talk to.
Exactly.
They might be rehearsed. They might, all of that.
Right.
This is you and your authentic self. And
that
I'm
is
so
very true.
blessed that
Thank you.
you've given me the opportunity to be here with you
Aw, well,
today.
thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yes. So, LaTasha, on February 2nd, you had an event.
Yes.
And Reflective Life Design was one of the focuses. Can you tell us about that event and how it went? Where was it?
So
What was it?
so I think it was the 5th, actually.
Oh,
I think it was the 5th.
The
Yeah.
5th.
So it was actually at Divine Wine, a lounge in Kihei, and it was an opportunity for friends, family, people that I've met on the island to come and to get a listen, like a sneak peek of the book. And so the book was available. But more so, it was a reflective time to have me read some of the excerpts of the book.
Yes.
Share my personal journey and really connect with with my friends. And so it was an amazing time. It was well attended. I'm very grateful. And one of the things that stuck out to me as I was actually inviting people even before the event, and I realized every person, because I literally actually called everyone, that I knew on Maui to invite them. And as I was going through the list of people to call, I realized that there was not a single person that I hadn't touched in a positive way in terms of depositing into them, whether it was through design or whether it was through personal relationship. I was able to recall things that I had done for them. And so it was rewarding because it was like, it wasn't, it's not a transactional relationship, but it warmed my heart to know that I gave all that I am and what God has allowed me to be to them to better them in whatever endeavor they were going for. And so it just really, warmed my heart to realize that, you do make a small, you make an impact. And sometimes we think that it's small, but it's very significant.
Yes.
And so it can be small, but it can also be very significant. So, not that that was part of the question, but I do feel led to say that sometimes we get into, well, I only have this to give, or I can only do this and I can only do that. But when God's in it, it's enough.
That's right.
And you never know that ripple effect that it causes in someone else's life.
That is so true. And I got to say, I think the millennials would say, and I'm kind of a millennial, kind of low key, but your soft skills game is on fleek. Okay? On fleek.
Yes, thanks.
Yes. Translation. She has high impacts with the things that you may not necessarily see, but can feel before, during, and after an interaction. Soft skills. On fleek, y'all. On fleek. So I'm so glad that it was well attended. Like, did you have people all outside on the steps? Because that little place is a cute little place.
It's so cute. I shout out to the owners for allowing me to stay there. It was so funny at one point because I was actually reading an excerpt from the book, and at one point I looked up and there were people that weren't my friends, but they were just coming to, the wine lounge in general, and they couldn't find a seat. Hey, and that is like that. I was very proud of that. I was very proud of that. And, everyone had a great time, and we just was able to relax and talk story. And it was just very, very peaceful, and everyone enjoyed themselves. So there was something in the book for everyone that was there. So
guaranteed. Again, y'all, my absolute favorite book that I've ever read. Okay. And it came to me as a gift in 2026. Through this wonderful author, writer, and guess what? Y'all know people be doing them AI books. That is not what this is. This is LaTasha Baldwin's real life in her real words that are not altered by artificial intelligence. That's super important that I want you to understand, because there's some things in here you are not going to get. And you can't go to AI and, we're going to talk more about that in a minute. I digress there. But you are an interior designer amongst other things. Mm-hmm. You design spaces to create outcomes.
Yes.
Did you redesign the wine space for your event? And if so, can you give us an idea of what that looked like? Walk us through the door.
Sure. So I didn't have to do a lot, but what I did is little touches. And going back to what I said earlier, it's often the little things. So a lot of things that I did was I first made the experience very interactive. So we had times of reading, we had time of reflection, we had time of mixing and mingling. Mm-hmm. And then I also had free food there, poo-poos. And so what I did is I labeled everything. So I made custom signage. I greeted everyone, make sure that they, they felt welcome. Mm-hmm. We had raffle items there, and we just made it very fun, very interactive. Each of the coffee tables had like a succulent on them, and then we actually scripted out the time. It was only for an hour and a half, and it was very well scripted where, at 7:15 we would do this, at 8 whatever we would do that.
Yes.
And wanted to be respectful of people's time.
Yes.
So we would stay on point. We had 2 or 3 different raffles. I always believe in giving back, which I talked about the first time that I was here. I love supporting small businesses. So we had an opportunity where they had some special desserts on the menu. So as a parting gift to have a sweet treat at night, we gave away a couple of their pastries. Ooh. Then we also supported my favorite Sweet Bella Bloom in Maui. Nice. And so she made mini cupcakes. And so we had cupcakes that were designed designed in the colors of the book. And so everything was just very intentional. And it was just the little touches to just set the space apart and then also make it welcoming and engaging so people felt like they were expected, they were wanted, and they were appreciated.
Yes. So that is one thing about you. Everything is so well thought out first.
Yes.
Like, I feel like a LaTasha Baldwin event is like a movie by the way of it having like a plot, like an intro, like a hero. You know how they talk about heroes' two journeys, you know, like you have all of that in a LaTasha Baldwin event. I remember the first one I went to was a New Year's Eve party. Years ago. I don't know how many years ago that was.
It's about 7 years ago. Yeah,
that was at the golf course.
Yeah, that was when I was actually in event planning. And so, so that was about 7 years ago.
Yeah. So I loved it. And of course, your girl won the best dress contest because I came in as smooth as, as Aviella Aloha, I can do it. And that was my single life, though. So, whole nother thing. But I mean, I wasn't dressed a mess. It was all all classy.
Yes, it was very classy.
Yes, but the event was too. I remember walking into the space and having greeters. You were there, smiling. You know, there was a table. There were things that you could take off. You go into the space. It was nicely decorated, open, where energy could move and so could people, because you know, time management. It was not a Maui time event. Yeah. For those of us who may have mainland tendencies, time management is a welcomed feature.
I love Maui, but I'm still like, that time management is still my go-to. Yes.
Super important to some.
Yes.
So I appreciated that. Oh my gosh. And you mentioned those Sweet Bella Bloom. I am going to see if I can reach out to her since you shout out to her, because I would love to have her.
Yes. She does custom cupcakes. She does minis. She does cupcake bouquets. She's amazing. Small business owner. Like I said, I love to support small business, and I have, just supported her through her journey, and you won't be disappointed. Yeah,
okay.
You won't be disappointed.
I'm going to find Miss Sweet Bella Bloom. So thank you for kind of walking us through that event. And what was the name of the event? I missed that part.
So it was an interactive book experience.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what it was, to promote the book. And so I also have another one this Saturday at Barnes & Noble from 1 to 3. And so anyone that wants to stop by and meet me in person, I love it. So
do not miss this opportunity to meet Miss LaTasha. I mean, there are some people that you could definitely miss them when they invite you somewhere, but she's not one of them.
Thank you.
Like, this is a real opportunity. So she has invited you personally. This is huge. I would recommend showing up to Barnes & Noble on Saturday at what time?
1 to 3.
And Barnes & Noble is located where?
In Kahului, and it's right next to, is it Old Navy over there? So right across the street from where you guys are.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if you don't know where Old Navy is, surely you know where Jollibee is. Okay.
Yeah.
So in the area.
Yes. Starbucks, all those other things.
Yeah. There you go. Okay. So that is this Saturday.
That's
so make sure you come out. And you guys, if you have a book, I don't know if y'all picked it up, but it sounds like if somebody's going to have a book launch, an interactive book launch experience, a signature LaTasha Baldwin interactive book launch experience is something you wouldn't want to miss. And maybe if you're nice, you may be able to, consult with LaTasha for something like that. And if I don't know, but maybe.
I'm here for it all. I'm here for it all.
Right? So, okay. Where do I start with all that is in this wonderful, wonderful book? I think what I would like to know first, who is this book for before we even get into anything?
Great question. The book is for anyone, regardless of gender, regardless of age, where they feel like they have not fulfilled a dream or a passion, they've either put themselves on the shelf to focus on friends, family, kids, whatever it may be. And someone who's just, felt like they're not enough. And I think for all of those categories and more, it's an encouragement. It's a, cheerleader in the background, letting you know that you can do it. Being very vulnerable and transparent in my own journey to, pull off that, facade, pull off, anything that you thought was masquerading and get down to the bones or the framework of who you are. Yes. And so I think, I know that's who the book is for.
Yes, yes, and yes. Y'all, this book is an approachable conversation opportunity to reflect on your current life design and the life design you desire.
Yes.
And it talks about the process, because this is Student Wealth Radio Hour. People always think wealth is like the destination, but as students of wealth, we find solace in the process of getting to different objectives. And here's the thing, that anyone who's experienced being a goal setter, once you reach a goal, there's another one.
Exactly.
It's not a do-all, end-all situation.
Yes, exactly.
And a lot of times, you might miss that you reached the goal because you're already positioning yourself to proceed past that.
Correct.
So I love that you say it's for someone who hasn't fulfilled a dream.
Right.
For whatever reason, life's us all.
Exactly.
And sometimes we could get distracted from what we really want. And sometimes we can just cut ourselves off, because I've noticed in myself and others through various conversations, observation, it's much easier to focus on what you don't want than what you do want for some reason.
There's something I do want to say, and I don't want to miss the opportunity. When you were talking about wealth building and you were talking about systems.
Yes.
And so what I will say to your audience is that it's very important for you, as you build wealth, as you think about where you want to be, you have to create systems.
Yes.
Because what happens is you meet those goals, you get that plateau, and then
nowhere to go.
If you don't have a system in place, you're going to go backwards. And so you have to have those foundational frameworks, those systems, those processes to make sure that if you come across a decision that you've got to make, you've got to be able to go back to your frame, to your base, to your foundation, to be able to say, is this right or is it wrong?
Yes.
And you need to be able to have those tools so that you can go to that next plateau, that next whatever it is. And so I did want to make sure that I call that out.
Yes.
Because it's extremely important.
It is. And thank you for that. And actually, if I may, just want to unpack that a little bit, because this is definitely a teachable moment that people could take value from. So when you talk about tools and systems, life insurance is a tool.
Right.
Continuing education is a tool. What are some of the other tools available for people that they can use that are sort of evergreen, if you will, or they would apply to everyone?
I think the one thing that I would say is kind of going back to what you talked about or alluded to when you were talking about soft skills.
Yes.
I think the biggest thing that people underestimate as a tool is knowing who you are, but then also more importantly, knowing what your flaws are.
Oh my Lord, yes.
And so for me, being vulnerable, I was a part of a mastermind, a webinar, and one of the questions was about what is one thing that you find yourself making decisions from. And so for me, based on how I was raised and the things that I struggled with, it's people pleasing. And so oftentimes, whether it's wealth building, whether it's whatever, you've got to deal with that, and you've got to have a system in place to where you say, okay, am I making this decision because I want to please somebody, or am I making this decision because it's what's best for me?
Yes.
And so a tool is knowing what those tendencies are, those things that trigger you
Yes.
to get back into your old self. And you have to be able to first acknowledge it, but then be able to recognize that, and then have a system, a guard in place, guardrails to say, I'm not going to make this decision based on me wanting to please people. I'm going to make this decision because it's the right decision to make for me.
That's right. So I thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
That is a huge point, and I do think that's universal, because for me, also being vulnerable, fear-based decisions can come into play with me, coming from a background of maybe feeling like I didn't have enough, or I'm on my own. So decisions, when they're made, it's always like, okay, what can I do on my own? And it comes out in my speech and everything. And a lot of times I believe it may prevent people from offering opportunities because I appear to be not interested,
Right.
based on
Right.
my posturing, my
Exactly.
positioning,
Right.
which goes back to the mindset. So
Right.
I love that, and you talk about that in the book so much.
Yes.
Different ways. In fact, there's a couple stories in the book that, if you would, and I'll have you, these are your real experiences, so
Yes.
to illustrate the point you just made, can you share a story that's in the book, or it doesn't even have to be in the book, because we want you to read it?
Sure. So I will share something that actually is happening real time.
Okay, perfect.
And so I can't disclose everything at this point because we're still working things out, but there's an opportunity that I have. And one of the things that this opportunity showed me was, it's something that came across my mind a couple years ago, and I immediately shot it down. And I was like, this is not for me. And then I went on to explain why it was not for me.
Yes.
Full stop. Now the opportunity has presented itself in two different ways. And so now I have to deal with, all the things that I justified why it wouldn't work and why it's not for me. I had to sit with those things. And now I'm working through those things to say, no, this is for me. And instead of like my mind going back to, being independent, I always want to figure it out. I always want to have all these plans. And I said, you know what? I want to have this season of my life to be the clearest that it has ever been. And so I'm not going to necessarily plan out everything. I am going to pray and trust God that he will work it out, because if he brought this back 2 years, after the fact, and there's two different opportunities, there's something in this for me. And so I am just going to walk the path that God has given me and let him work it out. And I will do what I'm supposed to do. That doesn't mean that I don't do what I'm supposed to do, but I'm going to do what I need to do, but also walk the path. And so that's one thing that I would say that's, real time, a decision that, very soon, if it works out, people will see it. So
I love that. Thank you for that. And that reminds me of in the Bible, in Philippians, where it says, be anxious for nothing, but take everything in prayer and supplication. Like, make your requests known to God. Just let him know. Put him in the mix, and then whatever's good and lovely and kind and, of good rapport, or things that make you happy, things that you want, think on these things. Side note, the Bible has so much practical information in it that we can apply in real time. It's almost like algebra, where when you're learning it, you're like, when will I use this? But as you get more experiences, then you say, oh, awesome.
That's very
true. I love that. What LaTasha is saying, and don't miss this, you all, is be open to opportunities. And when something presents itself again to you, it may be it may be God nudging you to say reconsider, reevaluate, take a second look, because the version of you today is not the version of you when it was first presented. So it may be that you're at the right place at the right time.
Exactly. And it's all about alignment. It's all about alignment.
Yes, absolutely. Now, as far as your work that you do now, not only with the book, but first, can you let others know that are listening, what do you do exactly? I'm talking about the book because it's amazing, but this is just one facet of LaTasha's work, and it's a lot. It's huge. But tell us, what do you do?
So I guess what I would, easy term, I'm an interior designer.
Okay.
But I don't look at myself as that. I look at it as I am the go-between in terms of helping people live their best lives in their home. And so I meet with people and I have the privilege of being invited to their space, and I have the ability, God-given ability, to guide them into making the house work for them. So whether that's, new furniture, whether that's, redesigning rooms or whatever it may be, that's what I do. So I help them live their best life in their homes.
Help you live your best life in your home. Now, y'all know a lot of us spend a large amount of time in the home.
Exactly.
So wouldn't we want to have a space that works for us, not against us?
Correct.
And there's a lot going on with that. If you want more information about that, you're going to have to talk to LaTasha directly about that, because I just don't know about all the things. There's a lot of things, but she is well-versed and experienced in creating spaces that nurture outcomes, meaning she can design a space to create whatever you want.
Correct.
And if you're not sure what you want, she's a great consultant to help you realize your vision, even if you can't quite put it in words. One thing that's nice about LaTasha, she has like this 6th and 7th sense, right? Where you cannot say things and she's still picking up on it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like if it were music that you were creating, she's picking up on the soft strings that you may not know are there. She's not just saying, oh, it's strings. Oh, I hear a violin here. I hear a harp. She can identify it. And that's a huge value for people, because communication is another tool and skill set that can shape your outcome, your ability to articulate your desires in a receivable manner. Right. Exactly. Without offense.
Right.
Diplomacy.
Right.
Is huge.
Right. And I think that's, why a lot of people connect with the book, because I make sure that I'm not talking at people.
Yes.
I'm talking to you.
Yes.
And I use my own life.
Yes.
As, the framework, if you will, to say, this is how this impacted me. Because there's nothing greater as a detriment to people is when they don't feel seen, heard, or valued. Mm-hmm. And so I practice that, in my professional life as well as my personal life. I try to make sure that I am present with people, and that I'm listening to them, and that I hear them. And I think that skill will also serve people well as they build wealth, as they build their lives, as they, go for their dreams or whatever it may be. You've got to, communicate with yourself and start knowing how you like to be communicated with, and what are some things that are going to help you get to that next plateau in your life.
Exactly. So thinking about your life and just thinking about the book, you share a process that you went through where your profession evolved over time. It started in one place and now it's in a season of something else, from little details to reflective life design. To reflective design studio and all that's in between that. What problem broke your heart enough not only to create what is Reflective Design Studio now, but to have the courage to go from little details to where you are today.
Got it.
And we actually have a caller, but this gentleman, hello, thank you for listening. I won't say your name out loud, but this is not a call-in segment. I apologize, but we will definitely circle back. If you have any questions, you can always go to studentofwealthhawaii.com and leave any questions for any of the guests, and I'll do my best to respond based on their feedback. So thank you for calling in, and maybe we'll be able to speak to you next time, but we will go ahead and proceed. And
So, yeah, I'll answer your question. So, in terms of the biggest thing that affected the transition, so let me set the story or the stage for people in terms of the context. So, I had a lot of different careers. At one point, I started in Denver, Colorado, event planning. And that was the catalyst that brought me into interior design. And so, as I was going into event planning, things began to shake and opportunities began to present themselves. And so then I went into staging. So I went from event planning to staging. And that was not, that was not a little thing. That was a huge thing.
Yes.
And so the catalyst that took me from little details to reflective design studio was actually, as a stager, I was invited by a vendor to go to Spain.
yes, I love that story.
And so when I went to Spain, I was around all of these big design firms, and I just felt like, oh my God, I'm like, I don't measure up. What am I even doing here? Like, what is going on? And so what I did was I turned my self-doubt into instead of how can I, decrease, how can I leverage this to increase?
Yes.
And so I took, the conversations and all of those things, and I said, okay, how can I be better?
Yes.
And so it was a simple thing. I never forget. We went to their facility, which is an amazing facility. And at one point there was like a welcome board, and it had everyone's logo on it. And I looked at my logo, and not in a detrimental, self-deprecating way, I looked at my logo and I said, okay, so you see your logo with all these other people. What is it about your logo that's different from theirs? And I began to see that I was operating on a small scale. And that logo was not projecting where I needed to be and where I needed to go. And so then fast forward, the same company also invited me to another event in Mexico. And so I was actually in a session, and it came to me, Reflective Design Studio. And so I went back. I actually hired a business coach, because a lot of people, don't believe in that. But there is proof in the pudding, as the old folks used to say, that it does work. Because I was able to have someone outside of me look at what I was doing, look at where I wanted to go, and help me bridge that gap. And they also held me accountable. And so I didn't get into those old ways where, this is not for me, this is whatever. And it was just like, I had the coach that was, holding my feet to the fire. No, you need to do this. Let's take a look at this. And so I looked at all of the processes I did, all of, the logos and branding. So we did a complete, 360 rebrand. And it wasn't easy. I mean, it was a lot of emotional things that I had to deal with in terms of things that I was holding on to.
Yes.
But you can't hold on to things and move forward at the same time.
Yes.
And so it was just, very much an emotional journey. But to be able to come out on the other side, I'm so much better for that. Not better in terms of being better than people, but better version of myself.
Yes.
And so, I would encourage people to do those hard things. And, honestly take a look at yourself and what you're doing and the decisions and the actions that you're doing. Is it lining up with where you want to go? Not comparing yourself, but being able to say, am I doing now? Is it going to benefit me, 5 years from now, a year from now, 6 months from now? And if it's not, then you make those changes and don't try to make a whole bunch of changes. What we did is we methodically laid it out to where there was, baby step upon baby step until we got to the point where it was fully immersed.
Yes.
And so you take them in chunks.
Yes. And, that's really important. Even when I have on my coach hat and working with, business owners, whether it's just someone who has a craft or someone who's in the beauty business who's wanting to expand. That first step of doing a deep dive on where you are now, where there's challenging questions that you ask, and you talk about it in the book, how your coach was brilliant because he put some in your face, look in the mirror, tell me exactly what you are wearing. Exactly. Matter of fact, take off all this exterior. Let me get down to the core of the brand identity that you're trying to accomplish, so that we make sure it translates through your messaging, how you show up, different areas. And y'all, all this is in the book. I'm not telling you anymore. You need to get it now. Reflective life design. Look, there is some key stuff in here that will help you get your brand, your personal brand or your business brand together. And I loved reading this. One thing I'm telling you is I see myself in this work so much. So there's so many things that I'm going through, that you've gone through, different stages. And so when I got to that book, that part, I want to say it's chapter 7, but I think it is. But anyway, I was like, that's exactly right. When you face yourself, like, what have I created based on my mindset at the time, based on the limitations I put on what I thought I could accomplish. Right. Now that I have kind of tore away those limitations, now what are the options?
Right.
And how can I redesign this space in my head to create outcomes that will better represent who I am now.
Correct.
And who I am becoming.
Yes.
So I love that. So did y'all hear when she said that after being presented the opportunity to go to Spain and Mexico? Don't miss that. Somebody called her to leave the country to show up at their event. Okay, talk about being a person of purpose where people see you for your work.
Yes.
And getting around individuals in an atmosphere and environment that was inviting to elevate or increase.
Correct.
Through leveraging the experience itself.
Correct. Yes.
And so that's huge. And did you hear her say that came from a mentor? I've had mentors. She's had business mentors. You may want to have a mentor wherever you are. If you feel like there's some things that you're having trouble accomplishing, you identify somebody who's accomplished those things. And then she talks about a process that you could use to determine what's the best mentor for you. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You're going to have to get the book, Reflective Life Design. But she does, and it's so accurate. I did it. She did it. And because of that, we are better individuals, better business owners, and we're here today. You see how this like-mindedness and alignment keep people together. Correct. When it's time. So if you're a student and this is your time to learn, I hope that you're picking up what we're putting down. Like straight up. So who pops in your mind, LaTasha, when you think about this work that you're creating? Who are your people?
So from a design perspective, the key point that I would say, because even though I'm talking about design, it can translate into a lot of different things.
Yes.
So what I look for in terms of on the design side of things, I look for people that are wanting someone that they see they can get something from. So what I mean by that is I tend to, first of all, from a design perspective, I have an ideal client.
Yes.
And so I've given my ideal client a name. I've given them an occupation. I've given them a gender.
Yes.
And I give them, a lifestyle. And 99.9% of the time, the clients that I bring on are exactly aligned with that ideal client.
Sure.
And so you have to make sure that whatever your business is, whatever your goal is, what is that outcome that you're looking for? And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. So and there's a vetting process, there's, we have an onboarding where we, make sure that we're both in alignment. And so my ideal client is someone that sees the value in what I bring.
Yes.
And you can't bring on someone or partner with someone if they don't see the value that you bring, that intrinsic value. If they don't see the value, then we're not going to work out. And
yes.
I've had times where it didn't work out. And so I like to say I graduate that person. And so they're graduated to do something different.
Bye-bye.
And there's no shade. Yep. It's called being true to who you are.
Yep.
And you need to understand that you're not for everyone. And because if you go into it thinking that you're for everyone, then you get into, my issue, people pleasing. And so there's a whole set of things, guardrails that I have created and systems to guard my professional decision making as well as my personal decision making.
That's right.
And so being able to understand who that person is, and you begin to see it as you begin to walk out. Like if you set that standard, and then when something deviates from that, then you have an opportunity to go back to your framework and say, you know what, this person doesn't fit in that frame. So I'm going to have to graduate them, or whatever your term is.
Yes.
And make sure that you're in alignment with the people that you're supposed to be aligned with. Because what happens from a design perspective is when I get that synergy, then the design takes on a whole new life of itself.
Yes.
And I can see and the quality of the work,
yes,
that when we're in alignment, that end result is exactly everything that they wanted. If we're not in alignment, we've either graduated and or it's not exactly right. And so it's important that you invest that time into understanding who is my partner and who is just an acquaintance that we need to say hi to and we need to keep on moving.
And I love it. So true in everything. I mean, you could apply that to business. You could apply that to finding a mate. You could apply that to the bank you want to do. I mean,
exactly.
You can, and what came into my mind as far as visuals, because some people, you're a visual. Imagine, you're in the car and the function cruise control. The nature of cruise control, you set a speed or an intention and you put it on auto. Press a button and everything's automated. So if something like your foot gets heavy and you try to go faster than the intentional set speed, the car will not speed up. If something happens and you try to go, maybe you take your foot off the gas, it would normally slow down. But on cruise control, it keeps the same speed no matter the level of pressure that's being applied either by yourself or some outside force. So I hear you saying that's parallel to this in terms of setting your speed limit, your intention, your destination, who you want to serve. Be able to call them out by name, by lifestyle, what they like, so that you and the client or customer or the other end gets exactly the outcome that they want. Is that correct?
That is very correct.
All right. I'm learning.
Thanks,
Are y'all learning out there? Tell me LaTasha is not the bee's knees. Okay. With your work, what moment kind of surprises the people who work with you most, would you say?
I think there's a couple things that surprise them. I think they begin to understand my commitment to them. My commitment to them is rock solid. And so there's been many stories, and there's some in the book where, I had to fight for my clients to get whatever it is they needed to get. And so I'm always going to go to bat for them. I'm always going to be 10 toes down, to make sure they get what they're supposed to get.
Yeah, like that girl who had a wedding and her kinfolks were trying to act the fool and cut the cake because she hungry right now. I'm sorry.
So yes, so those experiences and other things, but you just have to make sure that I'm lost where I was going with that, because then I was thinking about the cake thing.
I'm sorry. It's when they're trying to get to where they're going.
Right. So when they're trying to get to where they're going, I think, communication, understanding that I've got their back.
Yes.
And then the other thing is they are often surprised in terms of the level of detail that I put into different decisions. Mm-hmm. And so when I'm meeting with them, I will ask them, one of my favorite go-to questions is, how do you function in this space? And is it working for you?
Yes.
And so those two things are my go-to questions, because I want to, and I not only ask them those questions, if we are not in that room, I ask them their permission to take me to that room and tell me, as we sit in that space, whether it's a living room, a bathroom, how do you function in there? Even in the bathroom, like, how do you function? Like, makeup, so do you have enough lighting to put your makeup on? Or do you have issues with sight that we need to get more lighting and a different type of lighting? So there's all these questions that come for those two simple, the one question is how you function.
Yes.
And then, it takes a life of its own. Then they tell me like what their daily routine is or what their hobby is. And so it's that one simple question that just branches out into me, so that I can get a feel for what they like to do. And one of the things that I pick up on that they don't necessarily pick up on until after the fact is when we walk the space together, they naturally gravitate to those natural hunker down spaces. So when I take them into the living room, they naturally gravitate to the favorite couch or the chair or the area that they like to stand in. And so those are cues for me in terms of, okay, I need to make sure when we get to this side of the room that it has all of their creature comforts. So, those things that the unspoken things.
Yes.
And so those are things that surprise them. So when they see the design come together, it's a complete package, and they can function in the space the way that they intended and they want to function.
Yes. And that reminds me of another principle, because by you asking them how they function in that space, you're able to name it. In this
Correct.
instance, you talked about the makeup room. Now that you know it's makeup, it has a name. Well, embedded in the name of a thing is its purpose.
Correct.
If you misname a thing, you first cause it to be misunderstood and then consequently misused.
Correct.
So, because you asked that powerful question, because powerful questions steer focus. And in life and in business, you get what you focus on.
Right.
You're able to name the thing, identify its purpose, and then place contributing factors towards the goal around the purpose to get the outcome.
Correct.
By design.
That's absolutely correct.
What? You heard? That is so great. No, I love that, because there's so many things in this, and I love your level of professionalism and your approach to your work and your leadership in motion.
Yes.
Like all the time.
So I do want to come back to it, because we alluded to that, because I think people may not know about the whole story behind the cake.
Yes.
So really quickly, the fundamental question, or not question, but the thing that I want to highlight in that is, you'll have to read the book for the story. But the lessons learned, I will say this: you have to know your truth.
Yes.
Stand in your truth. And even in the face of adversity, controversy, people doubting you.
Yes.
And being concerned with what other people think about you, you have to stay in your lane.
Yes.
And do what you're called to do. Do what the purpose is.
Yes.
And trust that it is what it's supposed to be. And trust that it is enough in that situation. Because in hindsight, that person came back to me when I stood my ground.
Blessing in disguise.
Stayed in integrity, did the right thing because it was the right thing to do. It wasn't the popular thing to do.
Right.
I definitely had people that did not like me for it.
Yeah.
But I stood my ground. I didn't curse. I didn't get upset. I stayed calm. I stayed peaceful. And I stayed intentionally focused on what I was hired to do.
Yes.
That person later on in life many years later came back and complimented me
Yes.
on my composure.
Yes.
So that's the lesson learned.
It is. And y'all got to read. Oh, it's such a good one. I'm just over here like, girl, please. Auntie Mama. I'm going to call her Auntie Mama. Anyway, okay. When someone wants to work with you, what level of time and focus is required to work with you? Because you've identified that you have a process, an avatar, if you will. But what are your expectations of them? Like, how much time what is required?
So I think the first thing is that you have to have the requirement that you're actually going to listen to someone else.
Amen.
And if you are secure enough in who you are to be able to say, I don't have the skill set that I need for this, I'm going to bring on someone that has that skill set. So you first have to come to that, recognition. And then from there, you have to be open to receive it.
Yes.
Because oftentimes you may be open to invite someone, but not necessarily open to make the changes that need to be made.
Yes.
And so you have to be open enough to bring them in, open enough to be able to recognize that there is value to what they bring to the table. And then from there, it's a partnership.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of time. What I do is very, intimate. And so they have to have a level of trust. And so it takes, several meetings and correspondence with me to get that level of trust. Sometimes, depending on the person, it's earned instantly because they may have been referred to me by someone else. And so then there's that instant credibility. But there's time that you have to establish that credibility.
Yes.
And so that can take, days, weeks, hours. It really just depends. But it's an ongoing thing.
Yes.
So it's not, we're done and then we're moving on, because I have to earn their credibility and their trust the first time.
Yes.
And throughout the whole entire process.
Continues.
So I've got to stay consistent to who I am and what I believe in order for it to work out.
Oh my gosh, y'all, we have had such a talk. I'm looking up and we are almost out of time. 30 seconds left. LaTasha, what would you like to share with our listeners? Something practical they can do, and also let them know again about your event this Saturday.
So getting out the event out of the way, this Saturday, the 21st, Barnes & Noble from 1 to 3. Come out, come meet me. Let's talk story. Let's figure out what we can do to get you on the path. And then I would say in general, just stay true to who you are. Map out your goal, plan out your goals.
Aloha, this has been Student of Wealth Radio Hour. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next time. And if you want more information for this studio, it is on the studentofwealthhawaii.com website. And you can also find LaTasha's website at
reflectivelifedesign.com.
Have a great day. Aloha.
Giving Maui's young filmmakers a platform to share stories by kids for kids.
Hi, this is Steve Summers. Join me Sunday mornings from 1 to 2 a.m. with a replay Sunday mornings from 10 till 11 for the Oldies Time Machine. It's familiar oldies from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, plus some of those rare tracks you won't hear on any other radio program. Right here on KAKU 88.5, the voice of Maui.